Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. UFC on ABC 5, Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria just ended, and this is going to be my UFC post-fight full card recap. I'm going to go through the entire fight card and break down and react to every single fight on the card. Starting off with the first fight of the night, Sedriques Dumas versus Cody Brundage. Sedriques Dumas won via unanimous decision, and honestly, Cody Brundage came out and shot right through Dumas immediately. First 10 seconds, got him down, and I thought, oh no, I made a horrible prediction picking Dumas. And then Brundage pulls a guillotine, ends up on bottom. Dumas ends up controlling him, doing little damage from the top, but still controlling him. And then rinse repeat for the rest of the fight. Brundage made some super low IQ decisions in this fight. Pulled guillotine like 3 or 4 times in this fight. Ended up on bottom. Just got out scrambled by Dumas. Most of the times where Brundage would end up in a decent position, he'd get out scrambled, reversed, end up on bottom. And it was pretty much all 3 rounds of Dumas just laying in Brundage's guard. At one point, I think it was in the second round, Dumas got his back, wasn't able to do much with it. But honestly, it looked like Brundage just quit. He looked like he quit 2 minutes into this fight. He took this fight on short notice. He didn't look like he wanted to be in there. And honestly, you may see Cody Brundage in another video I'll be doing shortly regarding this fight card. But neither guy really impressed me. Brundage uninspired and Dumas marginally better. I mean, he showed some decent improvement in his grappling, but Cody Brundage shot right through him in the first 10 seconds. I mean, after that, I just feel like it was more of the low fight IQ of Cody Brundage more than the improvement of Dumas. And Dumas was very tired, and this wasn't even a high-paced fight. But Dumas gets the unanimous decision, uninspired performance, unimpressive performance by both guys. Moving up on the card, Jack Jenkins versus Jamall Emmers. Jack Jenkins wins via split decision. I'm going to be honest, I thought this was a robbery. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it. It's not the main event. It was buried on the prelims. Nobody's going to talk about it. I thought this was a brutal robbery. Okay, the first round was very close. Jenkins was landing some good body kicks, landing some good leg kicks. Jamall Emmers was landing some good shots with his hands. He was moving well. But the second round, I thought Jamall Emmers clearly won the second round. In the third round, Jamall Emmers out-grappled him for the majority of the third round and did some damage in the third round. After the first round, Jack Jenkins' cardio and output just kind of waned a little bit, and I thought Emmers was moving well. He was landing the 1-2. He was landing the straight right hand. The kicks of Jack Jenkins weren't coming together in the second and third round as much. I thought the second and third round were clear as could be for Jamall Emmers. The first round was razor close. I gave it to Emmers. I thought Emmers won this fight 30-27. I never expected them to give it to Jenkins. I never expected they would give the decision to him. I thought, worst case scenario, it's a 29-28 win for Jamall Emmers. Somehow they give it 29-28 for Jack Jenkins. I don't know what round they're giving him to, because there's no way they could have gave him the second or third round. How could they? Especially the third round. I mean, in the third round, Jenkins got out-grappled for the majority of that round. So I'm assuming, I haven't looked at the scorecards for this fight, I'm assuming they gave Jenkins 1 and 2. 1 is defensible. 2 is not defensible. Emmers was outstriking him the majority of the second round, moving well, kicking well, pumping the jab, landing the right hand, outstriking him in the second round. I don't know, and I even think he might have had a takedown or 2 in the second round as well. Jamall Emmers won this fight. This was a robbery. Jack Jenkins had no business getting the decision. Moving up on the card, Chepe Mariscal versus Trevor Peek. Chepe Mariscal wins via unanimous decision. What a crazy fight this was. If you haven't seen it, you have to go back and watch it. What a wild fight. Mariscal won every single round on the judges' scorecards, as well as that's what I scored the fight. Trevor Peek fought like crazy, but he's just running in, throwing crazy shots, throwing like weird standing hammer fist, and he's just so open for counters. And Mariscal, I watched him tape on him from the LFA. I knew how good he was. I picked Chepe to win this fight on short notice. And Trevor Peek's been hurt in every single fight he's in. And don't get me wrong, he was able to survive in this fight. And in the first round, he almost got rear naked choked. I don't know how he got out of it. It was so deep. But Mariscal is just an absolute savage. More technical striker, was able to take him down early at will as the fight went on, and it was later in the fight. Then Peek started to defend some of the takedowns. But it was like Mariscal was landing on the feet, hurting him on the feet, and then just throwing him down and taking him down and tripping him down, and lateral drops left and right, just slamming him to the ground, would beat him up a little bit on the ground, but he prioritized damage over control time. And Chepe Mariscal, great performance. Trevor Peek, don't get me wrong, he fought like crazy. He fought like himself. He rushed forward, throwing crazy shots. You would have thought that Mariscal told Trevor Peek, NASCAR sucks, and that's the way that Peek was fighting. But Mariscal was just so good. The striking looked good. Now, this was a crazy, wild fight, and it wasn't the most technical fight, but man, was it exciting. And Mariscal gets it done on short notice against Trevor Peek. coming in, I think it was like a week's notice for Mariscal, and went out there and won every single round, won the striking, won the grappling, was rocking Trevor Peek multiple times. Trevor Peek just kept moving forward, and he landed some good shots of his own, even clipped up Mariscal a couple times, but it just seemed like Mariscal, his footwork was a little bit better. He knew when to throw. He was making, kind of better decisions in the pocket with Trevor Peek, where Trevor Peek's just sprinting forward, throwing haymakers, and it cost him in this fight. He loses a unanimous decision. Moving up on the card, we have Joshua Van versus Zhalgas Zhumagulov. Joshua Van wins via split decision. I thought this should have been a unanimous decision for Joshua Van. Another guy stepping in on short notice. First round was close. Zhumagulov, I thought, got it done, landed more shots, got a takedown towards the end, a little bit of control time, a little bit of damage there. But then the second and third round, Joshua Van landing a good 1-2, landing the right hand, pumping the jab, busting up Zhumagulov quite a bit. I thought Joshua Van won the second and third round. Another guy who came in on short notice and gets a win. And I know I've talked about this plenty of times, but people have this, overall feeling based on the UFC's kind of propaganda that only the best fighters in the UFC. There's plenty of guys that can come from Bellator. There's plenty of guys that can come from One Championship or LFA or Fury FC or whatever it may be and come in and beat some of these lower level UFC guys like Zhumagulov. Zhumagulov, that bowl cut didn't help him, and the fight cancellations didn't help him. He got Joshua Van coming in. Joshua Van outstruck him in the second and third round, won the fight. Zhumagulov's probably getting cut from the organization, to be honest. He's lost quite a few fights in a row, and this is like his 8th fight in a row via split decision. I'm exaggerating. I know it's not that. But Joshua Van, incredible on short notice. Can't wait to see how he looks in the future in that division. Great performance, especially after losing the first round or arguably losing the first round, to look that good in the second and third round, be able to defend some takedowns, be able to get some scrambles when he did get taken down, and land on the feet. Moving up on the card, Tabatha Ricci versus Gillian Robertson. Ew! Moving up on the card, Mateusz Rebecki versus Loic Razabov. This was a crazy fight for Rebecki. Rebecki was brutalizing him in the first round, leg kicking, inside leg kicks like crazy in the first round. Hurt him badly with the leg kicks. I think he knocked him off his feet towards the end of the first round. He out-grappled him a little bit in the first round as well. Took him down, beat him up. And then in the second round, he went on to do the same thing he was doing in the first round. He was brutalizing that inside leg of Razabov, and then eventually dropped him, I think, with an inside leg kick. Then Razabov got back up, clipped him with a left hand, dropped him again, and then the ref jumped in. It was a kind of a weird early stoppage, but it was more based on the accumulation damage and the leg kick damage, because Razabov, at one point in the second round, just backed up against the fence and just stood there square against the fence because his leg was getting kicked so badly. He was kind of using it as a defense by just staying squared up against the fence. So the ref saw his legs getting brutalized over and over and over again, and then eventually gets clipped with an overhand left, dropped badly. The ref just jumps right in because he already seen enough and saw enough damage from the leg kicks and everything. But it was kind of a weird stoppage. But Rebecki looked incredible in this fight, was very fast, had good striking, had good leg kicks. And honestly, even though this was technically a KO, in my opinion, this was a leg kick stoppage. Moving up on the card, Randy Brown versus Wellington Turman. Randy Brown wins via unanimous decision. This wasn't a great fight. First round, Randy Brown was just pretty much outstriking him from range. Same thing with the second round, just outstriking him from range, using teep kicks to the body, landing some shots on the feet. Wellington Turman was chopping the legs, landing some good leg kicks. And then in the third round, Wellington Turman was really trying to grapple, really trying to clinch, landed some good elbows, inside elbows in the clinch, did some damage to Randy Brown. I thought you could give the third round to Wellington Turman, but outside of that, I had it 29-28 for Randy Brown. I don't remember what the judges scored this fight. I can't remember at this point. That was so long ago at this point. But Randy Brown got it done. Wasn't a super impressive performance. I wasn't impressed by either guy in this performance. Randy Brown, I've never been super high on. I know he's coming off that loss to Jack Della Maddalena. And I know Wellington Turman's kind of hit or miss. But this fight was just kind of uneventful. And, overall, this card had a couple duds on it. But Randy Brown gets it done just striking at range. Moving up on the card, the last prelim was Neil Magny versus Philip Rowe. Split decision win for Neil Magny. This was an ugly, ugly, ugly fight as well. Neil Magny, just a lot of clinch work throughout. I mean, they were just basically clinching the entire fight. Neil Magny, I feel like he's regressed at this point. I mean, Philip Rowe has some grappling deficiencies, and I thought Neil Magny would really be able to expose him in this fight, and he did clinch up with him and hold him against the fence. Didn't do a whole lot of damage. But Philip Rowe was even able to take him down. I think it was in the second round, took Neil Magny down and got his back at one point in time, but wasn't able to do anything with it. Started to slow down, and then Philip Rowe was kind of getting into the clinch game and clinching up with Neil Magny, kind of giving Magny what he wanted in the third round. I don't remember why it was a split decision. It should have been Neil Magny's fight, but honestly, just because there was so little going on, I can understand kind of giving it to Philip Rowe because there was really nothing going on outside of just clinch work from Neil Magny over and over and over again. Basically, the first 2 rounds, I had to go back and rewatch this fight because I thought they were taking a break before the main card. I thought this had been moved up to the main card because of a fight cancellation. So I had to go back and rewatch this. I only caught the third round live. And it was just a horrible fight, just nonstop clinch action. But Neil Magny gets it done via split decision. I think Neil Magny is regressing. I think his skill set is going down. He's getting up there in age, and I think it's soon to be he's going to fall out of the top 15 of the welterweight division. Moving on to the first fight on the main card, Brendan Allen versus Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva hurt Brendan Allen multiple times in this fight, was lighting him up on the feet, landing good shots. But the difference between Brendan Allen and Bruno Silva was, when Bruno Silva was landing, Brendan Allen was shelling up and trying to use head movement. But when Bruno Silva was getting clipped back and getting countered by Brendan Allen, he's standing there with his hands low, no head movement at all. And Bruno Silva clipped him a couple times, was kind of just blitzing forward, throwing combinations, looking to get Brendan Allen out of there. Brendan Allen clips him with 2 right hands back to back, drops Bruno Silva, follows him to the ground, beats him up on the ground a bit, and then eventually finds a rear naked choke towards the end of the first round. This was a good win for Brendan Allen. I picked him via submission. I picked him via rear naked choke. But at the same time, I don't want to say this is like the most impressive win. I know people are acting like, oh, he's a middleweight contender. He's saying he wants to fight Jared Cannonier. I think Jared Cannonier absolutely smokes Brendan Allen badly. But Brendan Allen, I guess he's kind of fresh meat for the middleweight division. And he gets it done over Bruno Silva, who stepped in on short notice. Bruno Silva almost, I don't want to say he almost beat him because he didn't almost beat him. But Bruno Silva with a little bit more head movement, a little bit more measured approach, could have won this fight. But Brendan Allen gets it done again via submission. Moving up on the card, one of my favorite fights on the card, David Onama versus Gabriel Santos. What a fight this was while it lasted. Gabriel Santos, I picked him to win this fight, looked very good early on in this fight and was landing good shots on the feet, hurt Onama a couple times. Onama was landing good shots. The first round, there were scrambles where Santos was looking for arm bars and triangles, and then he would scramble back to his feet. And this fight was great. And then the second round, it just seemed like Santos started to gas a bit. The cardio started to kind of fail him a little bit in that second round. And David Onama, he's coming back after that war over Nate Landwehr where he had a decent third round, even though he was completely gassed. And he still had good cardio in that second round, even after the high pace of the first round. And in the second round, Santos started to win early. I think he even had his back at one point. And then you had Onama turn into him on the ground, land some shots on the ground. They both got back to their feet. They started striking again. And it just seemed like Onama was the fresher fighter. Lands an uppercut, hurts him badly, lands a right hand on the way down, finishes Gabriel Santos via KO in the second round. And then starts shooting the arrows, kind of stole Izzy's celebration a little bit. I thought it was a little bit corny, but nonetheless, he gets it done in a great performance. Gabriel Santos is a legit fighter. Gabriel Santos, I know he doesn't have a win in the UFC, but he came in and he arguably beat Laron Murphy in his last fight. Looked very good in this fight. Very highly skilled, very well-rounded. And David Onama coming in off a loss, new coach because, we have James Krause and that whole betting scandal situation. And David Onama was losing that first round, came back, won the second round. But Gabriel Santos, I'm still super impressed with him. His scrambles, his jiu-jitsu, his striking. He's just got to work on that cardio. He started to fade a little bit, and Onama was able to catch him slipping in the second round and hurt him badly and finished him. Moving up on the card, the featured fight of the card, Justin Tafa versus Austen Lane. This ends in a no contest. First round, no contest, 30 seconds in. Austen Lane was winning the fight, but not really. There was like 3 strikes thrown. Austen Lane landed some good body kicks, and that was pretty much it. And then there was a nasty eye poke as Justin Tafa was coming in. Austen Lane was kind of pushing away, and Tafa leaned into the hand as he has his finger sticking straight out. Got poked badly, was unable to continue. Dan Mergliotta gave him every opportunity. He said, look, I know you can't see. We're going to give you the full 5 minutes to see if you can recover. And then if you can't, we will end the fight. And there was people complaining about this. Why are we giving him extra time if he says he can't see? Well, if Big Dan Mergliotta walked up to him in the first 10 seconds and Tafa said, I can't see, and then Big Dan waved it off, everyone would be complaining. Everyone would be criticizing. The MMA community just can never be happy. And I know I'm guilty of complaining as well, but this was perfectly fine, and I hope every referee does this from here on out. I can't believe people were saying, why are you giving him the full 5 minutes? Why not give him the full 5 minutes to see if he can recover? The doctor's looking at his eye. It's not like his eyeball's hanging out. Why not give him the full 5 minutes to see if he can recover? If he can't, then it's a no contest. Easy as that. No harm, no foul. So I thought it was a perfect reffing job by Big Dan Miragliotta in this situation. I know some people, I saw some delusional fans on Twitter saying, well, Austen Lane should be DQ'd. DQ'd for an unintentional foul? I understand it was a bad eye poke, but we're not DQing people based on the severity of the eye poke. You know what I mean? There's some eye pokes. Oh, so you want to DQ Sean O'Malley now because Sean O'Malley eye poked Pedro Munoz? It didn't look that bad on camera, but he had a scratched cornea. You can look up his medical records. So do we want to go back and DQ Sean O'Malley? I didn't see people saying that. They were saying Pedro quit. It makes no sense to me. There should not be a DQ for one incidental eye poke that ends the fight. I think that is an absolute egregious statement to make. And I also think Big Dan Miragliotta had some great reffing in this fight regarding stopping the fight, regarding giving him ample time, and then making the right call to stop the fight because he could not see. Moving up on the card, the co-main event, Maycee Barber versus Amanda Ribas. Maycee Barber wins via second round TKO. I picked Amanda Ribas in this fight. Ribas looked good early. She was landing some good shots on the feet. I thought she was outstriking Maycee Barber. I think she even had a takedown or a brief takedown early in the first. But then later in the first round, like the last 2 minutes, she ends up on the ground and starts rolling for a leg lock. Maycee Barber basically has her feet in a body triangle position, so there's no chance Ribas is going to get this leg lock or knee bar, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm like, okay, let go of it. And then Maycee Barber just starts teeing off on her because, okay, now Ribas can't block because she's looking to roll for this knee bar. And she just starts eating nasty shots after nasty shots after nasty shots, gets brutalized, loses the first round based on that. And earlier in the first round, Ribas clinched up with her and ate a nasty elbow that bloodied her nose, but loses the first round basically based off of rolling for a leg lock for the entire 2 minutes where Maycee Barber's legs are locked in a body triangle. And she loses the first round. Second round, she comes out. She's looking okay on the feet. She's landing some striking exchanges on the feet. She gets Maycee Barber down, controls her for a little bit. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Maycee Barber eventually gets back to her feet. There's an exchange. And I actually noticed something in this fight. I went back and watched the finish that nobody else noticed. Nobody else mentioned. I'm going to mention this video in a second. But during the finishing sequence, there was a head kick by Maycee Barber. Then there was a right hand by Ribas that kind of stumbled Maycee Barber back. I don't think it like hurt her badly, but it stumbled her, kind of dropped her to one knee. She gets back up, lands another head kick. Then you have Ribas kind of rush forward again, throw some combinations. Then she backs up, and then Maycee Barber kind of rushes forward, lands a nasty right hand, hurts Ribas badly, rushes forward. Then Ribas ends up getting dropped kind of in the ensuing chaos. And then basically she just holds on to an ankle. She kind of falls, after she gets dropped, she kind of falls to a knee, starts grabbing the leg of Maycee Barber, and basically has nothing to offer, doesn't try to block. Instead, she's just holding on to this leg. Maycee Barber just letting loose with ground and pound elbows and finishes her in the second round. What I noticed on rewatch, watching the finish, okay? First off, before I even get into that, actually, the head kick did not hurt Ribas, okay? The head kick landed good. It did not hurt Ribas. She rushed forward, started throwing combinations. She was not wobbled from the head kick. She leaned away from the head kick. So first off, the commentary was completely off on that. Second off, after Maycee hurt her with the right hand and Maycee rushed in, there was a head clash. They head clashed each other. It was an accidental. Wasn't going to change the outcome of the fight, but that's what dropped her down to the single leg. You don't believe me? Go back and rewatch the fight. It was clear as day. I rewatched it a couple times. That's what made Ribas end up on the ground. Now, Maycee Barber hurt her with a right hand before that. Ribas was hurt from the right hand. She probably would have found the finish anyway, but that did happen. And now people are acting like Maycee Barber is the elite of the elite. Maycee Barber's been gifted robbery split decision after robbery split decision. Was this a good performance for her? Yes. Did she get it done? Did she get a finish in the females division where there's not a lot of finishes? Yes, she did. But I was not crazy impressed. People were comparing this. Oh my God. People were comparing this to Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Shame on you if you did that. Shame on you. It was a fun fight. Fun while it lasted. Maycee Barber got the finish, but I'm not like crazy impressed by this win from Maycee Barber. I don't think she's the future of the division. I don't think she'll ever be champion. This is the UFC promotional machine and the arm of the UFC promotional machine, the glorified publicist of the MMA media, just basically taking what the UFC feeds them and just regurgitating it. And for some reason, you know, it used to be Paige Van Zandt or Ronda Rousey back in the day, and now they just want to put it behind Maycee Barber. She got it done. Don't get me wrong. She should get credit for this win. I'm not trying to take it away from her because of the headbutt, but to act like this was some Weili Zhang-esque performance, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, to compare it to that fight is a slap in the face. And people act like, oh, this may be the best women's fight since that fight. That is crazy to me. Maycee Barber got the finish. She finished Amanda Ribas. She finished her with ground and pound. Both of them were busted up. Both of them were bloody. But Maycee Barber is kind of who we thought she was. She's a gritty fighter who doesn't give up, has no quit in her, and, you know, has great elbows in the clinch. That's probably her best weapons is her short clinch game, striking. And she showed it in this fight, and then she showed her tenacity, and she showed her grit to, you know, she got beat up herself, got bloodied up, took some damage, but she found a finish herself in the second round. Moving up on the card to the main event, Ilia Topuria defeats Josh Emmett via decision. What a fight and what a performance by Ilia Topuria. And this was a brutal beatdown by Ilia Topuria. One judge gave it to Topuria 50-42, which is craziness, which is absolute crazy. That's how bad this beating was. I don't necessarily agree with the scorecard because 10-8 third round, it was a 10-8 third round and a 10-7 fourth round. I don't hate the 10-7 fourth round. Don't love the 10-8 third round, but I have no problem with, you know, this being basically, this is a 50-44 in my mind. Most of them were 10-9 rounds with a 10-8 fourth round or a 10-7, which is very rarely given. Ilia Topuria, the only round that was even remarkably close in this fight was the first round. And it wasn't even that close in my opinion. I thought Ilia Topuria clearly won the first round, was just beating Josh Emmett up, beating him to the punch. Josh Emmett was hitting a lot of the forearms. There was one judge that gave Josh Emmett the first round. I think that's craziness. Josh Emmett was just hitting a lot of forearms, hitting a lot of the guard of Ilia Topuria. And Topuria in the second round hurt him badly multiple times, almost finished him towards the end of the second round. Third round continued to just outclass him, working the jab, working the leg kick, landing big right hands. Fourth round is when he almost finished him at the end of the fourth round, just brutalized him, hurt him with a short left hook, followed up to the ground, beat him up on the ground a little bit. He got back up. Then I think he dropped him with a right hand, or maybe, I think it was the leg kicks. He was kind of off balance. He threw a right hand. Josh Emmett ended up falling to the ground. He followed him to the ground, ended up in full mount, dropping down, nasty ground and pound, almost finished him, saved by the bell for Josh Emmett in the fourth round. And then the fifth round, Josh Emmett, it should have been stopped at the end of the fourth round. And I don't know where the refs were. I don't know where the doctors were. I don't know where the corner was of Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett came out and threw some haymakers in the fifth round. There were some oohs and ahs, and the commentary team saying, Josh Emmett doesn't give up. But Josh Emmett taking a lot of extra CTE, completely unnecessary, got outclassed, world-class performance by Ilia Topuria. Outstruck him, outgrappled him. Really, I mean, there's really no bright spots for Josh Emmett. When you're talking about a fighter's toughness after a fight, usually they got their ass whooped, and that's exactly what happened in this fight. Topuria showed a lot of improvement, and he's still so young. I'm just laughing hilariously over the fact people thought Paddy Pimblett might have had a chance against Ilia Topuria. He would get absolutely slaughtered. He went out there against a tough veteran in Josh Emmett and just beat the brakes off him. This was a dominant win, a world-class win, and his defensive striking improved. Emmett was throwing a lot of big shots. He landed a couple left hooks, but Ilia was doing a good job of defending with a high guard, rolling with the punches, managing distance. And also when he hurt him, he didn't blow himself out or gas himself out by attempting to swarm him too crazy and getting clipped. You know, some guys will hurt a guy, rush in, either gas himself out looking for a finish or eat a counter and get finished himself. He didn't do that. So he showed, you know, some good restraint, some good killer instinct. He didn't, you know, not go for the finish, but he went for it. He realized he wasn't getting it, and then he kind of slowed back down in the pace. And he just went out there in this fight. He was able to outgrab him with ease in the fifth round. The fifth round, Josh Emmett just basically got taken down, beat up on the ground a bit after throwing some haymakers for like the first minute of the round. But it should have been stopped after the fourth round. His eye was completely swollen. He was badly damaged, badly bloodied, and Topuria was just chewing him up on the feet. Topuria also showed in this fight he has 5-round cardio. And we did not know that. And now Ilia Topuria getting a win over a guy who's ranked in the top 5. Topuria has proven that he belongs in that top discussion in the featherweight division, in that title discussion, because now he's a top contender. And I think we have to wait to see what happens with Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez at UFC 290 Topuria may be next in line, especially if Volkanovski wins at UFC 290. We need a fresh contender. And he went out there and proved that he's the elite of the elite. I had my eye on Ilia Topuria for a long time, and he's finally moved up the ranks. He beat Josh Emmett and put on a masterclass performance. Was out jabbing him the whole fight. That was his best weapon in the fight. He was also using those calf kicks, brutalizing the calf of Josh Emmett. The couple glaring things that it seems like Ilia Topuria has to work on is his shot selection, because even though he looked really good in this fight, he doesn't mix it up that well. Like, he really only he used his boxing and he used some leg kicks. That's really all he used in this fight in terms of his stand-up striking. So I'd like to see him mix in more body kicks, more head kicks. But how can you criticize him when he put on a performance like this? He went out there and brutalized Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett, I would say he's 38 years old. He's taken a lot of damage. He's never fighting for a title. Maybe it's time for him to hang it up. He landed some good left hooks in this fight. Some good leg kicks as well. That's the other kind of criticism of Topuria. He wasn't checking a lot of the kicks of Josh Emmett. But, you know, how can you criticize this performance, you know? And he even took Josh Emmett off his feet a couple times with leg kicks, kind of stumbled him a little bit. Topuria did. So Topuria won the leg kicking battle in this one. But I'd like to see him in the future not take as much heavy leg kicks from his opponent, because I'm just imagining that being Yair Rodriguez. I mean, that's going to be a big problem if he can't address the leg kicks of Yair Rodriguez. But I'm really looking forward to see where Topuria goes from here. I mean, fantasizing of a matchup of Topuria versus Volkanovski or Topuria versus Rodriguez is super intriguing to me. And that's why I don't think he should fight anyone else in terms of like a Max Holloway or anything, because we need Topuria as a fresh matchup in the featherweight division rather than Max Holloway, who's already lost 3 times to Alexander Volkanovski, and the last loss being the most decisive. So I want to see what happens at UFC 290. It's only a couple weeks away. Topuria potentially fights the winner later this year. Ilia Topuria could be in a featherweight title fight. Masterclass performance, went out there, beat the brakes off Josh Emmett, hurt him multiple times, showed great maturity, great improvement in his skill set. And that's the look of a future champion. When every fight out you look improved, that's what I look for in a future champion. He looked very improved. The defensive striking looks so good. Josh Emmett, a lot of his shots just landed on the guard of Ilia Topuria. Wasn't really landing a lot of clean shots. Topuria didn't take a lot of damage in this fight outside of some leg kicks, but I think he'll be fine. And I think, you know, he's going to sit out. Maybe he'll be at UFC 290 with my guess, but I think he's going to sit out and wait for the next title shot. Unless Yair Rodriguez dethrones Volkanovski, then we're probably going to see a rematch there. And then in that case, maybe Topuria can beat the brakes off of Brian Ortega, who's kind of been ducking him to this point. That's the fight that Topuria wanted. Ortega said, nah, I don't want that fight. He doesn't deserve it. But yet Ortega hasn't beat anyone other than the dead corpse of the Korean Zombie in the last few years. I think since 2018, the last 5 years, I think that's Brian Ortega's only win. So if there is a upset, you know, Rodriguez beats Volkanovski and we have that rematch, then I think Topuria versus Ortega is the fight to make. And I favor Topuria heavily to win that fight. He absolutely dominated Josh Emmett in this fight. And people think he's a striker. He's primarily a grappler who's fallen in love with his striking in the UFC, and he showed it in this fight against Josh Emmett. Let me know what you guys thought about this card. Which fights did you guys love? Did I miss anything that I should have talked about? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.